It's time to start our September 18th council meeting. Janine, we please call the roll.
Mr. Barker.
Here.
Ms. Blind.
Here.
Mr. Shu.
Present.
Mr. Hauser.
Here.
Mr. Labutus.
Here.
Mr. Lang.
Present.
Mr. Marmy.
Present.
Mr. Neely.
Here.
Mr. Rack.
Here.
Mr. Ryan.
Here. Everyone's here tonight. We stand for the invocation and then remain standing for the pledge after the invocation. Bye, Mr. One.
Lord, we thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you, Lord, for your hand over our safety forces, oh God, in this city. And it's under your hand, oh Lord, that we submit ourselves, seeking your wisdom and guidance, God. Lord, there's so many moving parts in life, but Lord, you alone can give us the wisdom that we need to guide our way. Thank you, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Everyone made a pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next up is caucus. Do we have anything for caucus tonight? Next is minutes of the September 5th meeting. Motion by Labutus. Second by Lang. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next, we have an appointment by Mayor Hall. Mayor, do you want to speak on these?
Yeah, this is the, we do these every 2 years alternating. This is the Gen Z 1 board year. Last year was Gen Z 2, and of course, next year will be Gen Z 2. So I have 3 appointments, and one of those names listed in their alternate. So they're all repeats. They're all would love to redo it. First, Mark Bonner, everyone knows. Chris Harkness is with the county development group, and he's an appointment through that angle. And Candy Engel is on the Southwest Licking School Board, so she's my representative on that. And then Adrian Eskins is her alternate, so I would ask you to confirm that.
Okay, thank you. So you heard the appointments names. They're going to be to the Aetna Corporation Point Park Joint Economic Development Zone 1 ECP JED Z1 board 2-year term beginning October 23 to September 30th, 25. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That passes 10-0. Next up is reports of standing committees, finance service, personnel without objection will be received and filed. Next is reports from city official, Ryan Bob operating for a period ending in August 31st and 23. Brenda Cooper, tax administrator, tax revenue reports ending in August 2023 without objection. That will be received and filed. Next, communication webinar Wednesday, September 20th at noon to 1. Trish Perry has a progress fight street drugs in addition webinar. So next up is comments from citizens. We ask that you give your name and address and 3 minutes only. So we have someone, okay?
I'm very good, 12 North Place. And I'm coming here to say that the historic, Licking County Historical Society's event on Friday was amazing. It's on their website if you didn't see it, it's recorded on there. It was echoes, their annual echoes from the past, when they talk about local people that buried there in the graveyard. This year it was honoring African Americans from the local community. And I talked about my great grandparents. They came here in 1885. They worked for the Webbs. The Webb Museum, Webb House was the big house beside there. The Webbs actually bought our family home for us. It was a really good history. And so I'd like to thank Howard Long at the Lincoln County Historical Society for coming up with that particular program. I would like to thank the mayor for kicking it off, saying some kind words. Also Latans at the cemetery for doing a good job. It was really, I've heard so many comments back, people who have gone for years saying it was one of the best ones I've ever been to. It was my first one, so I couldn't compare. But two things that we changed, according to what they've done in the past, we're now stationary in one spot because it was kind of hard for people to climb, around from site to site. And then also this year, although the announcement said $5 a person, we waived that, so we won't be charging anymore. And I will be on the committee for next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Paul Bruner, 419 South Second Street, North Ohio. Yeah, first off, to start it off with, I'd like to thank Mayor Hall and Spencer Barker for supporting Light Tonight with your trophy donations. I appreciate that. And also, what I talked to several members of North Riders does Light Tonight, and they'd like to see more support from the Downtown Newark Association as far as restaurants and stuff like that, supporting Light Tonight by whether it's sponsoring a trophy or giving a donation for a door prize. It would help out. This year was the biggest year they'd had in a turnout for a long time. And we'd like, they'd like to see it grow. I'm not a member of Dark Riders, but I've been to Light Night every year. So it's just something we do, and it's for kids and their families to see the courthouse lit. The other thing on my agenda, again, is homeless. Okay, we got an apartment building, 451 Edgemont Road. And there's two apartments there, apartment A and apartment B, that's allowing homeless to stay there. They set up camps on their patios. The other morning I got up, I take my great granddaughter to school every day. I got up, walked out back, there's one of them standing there urinating out in the yard. My granddaughter don't need to see that. Nobody needs to see that. So I did call Newark PD, they come out. What they did, I don't know. But then I went down and I always walk my wood line out back. And Trish knows where it's at. And there was a fort built down there. And this girl popped her head up out from underneath the fort. And I said, "What are you doing?" "Well, I'm sleeping." I said, "Not here, you're not." I said, "Get out." So I called Newark PD, we got her for trespassing, and we tore the fort down. It's getting worse. And something needs to be done. And as far, I did some research and checked in some things. This homeless outreach, the people that supported or started are from Granville. Why did they come to Newark and set it up? Why didn't they set it up in Granville? Because that's our problem. These people ain't gonna get out and get a job as long as you're handing them everything. I mean, this is ridiculous. We're suffering for what they're doing. I mean, yes, Mr. Marmy, he said the last council meeting I was at, well, people fall upon hard times. Well, yeah, that's true. I was young once, I fell upon hard times. But I made sure my family was taken care of. I went out and got a job. I didn't ask for handouts. And that's what this is all about. Like I said before, this is Newark, people. Take pride in it. Let's make Newark a happy place and a livable place again. And the guy that lives in 451 apartment D got into it with my neighbor right back there in the red shirt. because he's cutting through his property and told him to get off. Well, then his mom comes out and she's in her 80s and he cusses her out. Now, the collision of housing is the ones that's putting this guy up there. He's supposed to be on his medications and he's not taking them. So again, we, the neighbors of the neighborhood, have to suffer for this. Why? Somebody needs to tell us why. It's time these organizations around Newark start doing their part, so we can live a happy life in our neighborhoods again. Thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Bruner, I think you've already talked to the safety director about that problem, is that correct?
Yes.
So hopefully he can handle that problem. Okay.
Michelle Boland Smith, 237 Violet Court. I wanted to say that I noticed that in Pataskala, they recently had a safety festival or a safety fair kind of thing. And I was really pleased to see that Pataskala took that position in terms of the need for safety education. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Claire Smith, I have a storage unit that I
Can I have your
use.
address, please?
I was gonna give that to you.
Okay. So
328 Wilson is where my storage unit is. I live at 1203 Briar Hill Road in Heath. I have rented there for 7 years. We recently have, everybody knows that alley is the McDonald's of drugs. You basically come up, you honk, they come out, they pay you, you get your drugs. We recently had a person behind us move in who is now a scrapyard in the back. And recently I had $4,000 of stool for my new storage unit. $4,000, my hobby, I'm a professional mechanic. That's my livelihood. $4,000 tools makes me money. Now I can't make money because I have to replace those tools. So basically you have a scrapyard behind the storage unit. He's just passed there today. They're cutting up metal. You approach them, they have cameras all over. You can't even approach their house without them coming out and asking you what they're doing. And the first thing they do is like, oh, we don't know what's going on. We just came from Columbus. We got kicked out of Columbus because we were problems, so we moved to Newark. Well, it seems like they're doing the same thing now because they got kicked out of Columbus. Now they're there. Mrs. Blind approached her about 1 o'clock in the morning. This lady's like, I'm going to return everything I've stolen. So, and 3 doors down, they have a homeless camp in the backyard. It's right down there on the hill. It's right by your new prestigious little Union Street volleyball courts and everything. Well, they're pushing our way now. And my second thing is you have toy runs for the bikers that have about 1,000 people go there, raise a lot of toys for the community. You have certain elements in town that are warring. So behoove you to pay attention to that, to police who goes to that bike show and who doesn't. Because right now, if they're willing to shoot people in plain sight, obviously they don't care who sees them. Thank you.
thank you. Anybody else at this time?
Hello, my name's Jill Robart, 1012 Lyons Avenue. The crime in this town has gotten completely out of control. This ties into the fact that nobody is prosecuting, going after these drug dealers. They're in my neighborhood. They are making methamphetamines. They are transporting all night long back and forth between my neighborhood and, I'm assuming, Wilson Street. And we report over and over and over to the police. We've collected multiple license plates, descriptions of people, which apartment buildings and houses that they are coming from. And nobody is going after these merchants of misery and death. It's just exasperating all the other problems. You are going to have the continuing
mental health disorders, homelessness, anything that's not tied down is stolen. Even my backyard got broken into and they tried to steal a 40-year-old bicycle unsuccessfully though. We have cameras on every inch of our house now. I am actually uncomfortable because this is the longest I've been unarmed. And I just wanted to make my thoughts known.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Lance Newman, I live at 445 Edgemont, in between the two apartment complexes. I had Beth at my house the other day. We were in the backyard and the homeless and drug problem is a real thing, cutting through mine and Jimmy and Red's yard constantly. I went out there when I had a homeless man cutting out his mother. I'm worried that it's going to escalate to violence. I'm not worried for my behalf. I'm worried violence against an old lady, violence against Jimmy got a heart problem, violence against Tom. Beth watched where two homeless people came to the apartments high on something with a trailer full of stolen shit, stolen stuff in the back of it. And it's getting extremely bad in that area. When I first moved in 2 years ago, it was super uncomfortable to be there. I made my presence known to the drug dealers and everything out there and handled it without the police. Now that they've come back, it's gotten worse. I was just like, make that a point. I would like to see something done. I would really like to see something done because I have my animals in the back. I'm worried that somebody's going to take a chicken of mine or steal something in my backyard that I use for my gardens and stuff like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else at this time? That's it.
Hi, my name is Curtis Purrier. And I live on 45 North Avenue. And right in front of the bike trail. I've been there for many years. I've had a lot of problems with the homeless as well. I hate to beat that drum again. I've had a lot of problems with the homeless people back there as well. At one time there was a tent city when I didn't even know that there was a tent city across the river from my home. And that was that went away for a while. But then there's people still sleeping on my side of the, I own all of my property all the way to the river. And at first it wasn't such a big deal to me, but it is now. The fire marshal came by my house the other day and said they had started a makeshift fire pit. And wanted to know if I wanted to have them arrested or file charges or just shoo them away. I just told them to shoo them away this time, but I've been back there before. I cut all the grass back there. I've been doing it for 30 years actually. And been finding debris everywhere and picking it up, putting it in something and disposing it either at my place or they're behind it, at the brick building there on the East Main Street. Went back there the other day, or it's actually been a couple of weeks ago now. It's been more than a couple of weeks because we had left and went out of town and came back. And that's when we found out that they found a body back there. And then I found out later that he wasn't the only person that was found, whatever. But went back there, I was cutting grass and was about to go down the hill and cut the grass down there. And I noticed all this trash, bags of grocery bags and plastic bags and candy bar papers and all kinds of potato chip papers and things and pieces of flooring in the brush that belongs to me. That's part of my property. in the brush and people's clothing there as well. And I picked it all up, took it, it was trash day the next day, I got rid of the trash. That was, I could throw away the other, I had a burn pit, so I burned the rest of it. And I was back there and I noticed the next day that this guy was walking back and forth along the perimeter of the trees back there and looking for his stuff. I could see that he was incensed. And I hollered at him. He didn't even look my way, not once. And I said, well, I'm not going to mess with him. He's a lot younger than me. I'm much older now. I'm not into confronting people physically. But it really upset me. He just ignored me. But anyway, that's my issue, you know. I've got my yard fenced in, most of it. The back half of that is still mine. And I don't mind my neighbors going back or the kids going back and through there as a shortcut. But I don't want the homeless there. The bike trail is supposed to be for people who rollerblade. Like I used to rollerblade a lot in that area, as well as there's many other areas in Newark and around town. And I used to walk a lot and run a lot for years. The bike trails for people for couples to walk, for people to walk their dogs, for people to rollerblade and skate or whatever, ride their bicycles or whatever. That unsightliness of these homeless people is beyond measure by now. I mean, I just visited California for the first time and saw that they have a much worse problem than we do in this small town. But yet and still, that the back part of my home is my property, and I'm sure that no one here in this room would like to see homeless set up tents and carts and leave trash in their property. And I will continue to observe them, continue to run them off. But something has to be done. They need a central location somewhere else outside of the city. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ma'am?
Can I go one more time?
Not yet, sir, ma'am.
I don't really.
My name is Jean Crumline, and I live at 1259 West Main Street. And I'm here in support of my mother that's 87 years old that owns a property that used to be a commercial property in the 300 block of Wilson Street, where we've had a lot of break-ins recently. In a month and a half, we've had 3 break-ins. And I fear for her because at one time we thought she might have, when she went to the one property, that someone might have been in the building at the time that she went there, and she goes there quite a bit. So I would like to see, either more, policing in the area or a nuisance issue be put upon certain people because there is a big problem there. We've been there for years and years and it's just gotten really bad right now. So I hope that everybody can support Beth and maybe doing a nuisance law.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good, sir.
So my name is Richard Higgins. I stay at 433 South Second Street. I know Tom, I know Lance, also know Jim. And I am a strong witness of a lot of things I've seen. And I think you guys really should do something about, folks like camping out in the field. I believe like 2 years, maybe 2.5 years, Tom came across the body out there in the field. They're always cutting across. They're constantly saying something to them. This one incident, I don't know the lady's name, but excuse me, kind of the first time up here. She passed away and she was deceased in the house close by us. And when they found out the lady was deceased in there, and they went in there, handled everything. It was this couple that went up in there and stole so much stuff. But before they left, I called the police, and I was out there for a while. I watched them pull away, and there was no way they should have got past a cop. The way that things were sticking out the windows, the way the vehicle was, I described the vehicle, but they got away. They got away. And then they go around just stealing everything. They stole Jim's rims. They walk around the neighborhood, seeing if they can find a package. They even walk by my apartment, twist my door. You know, folks are really getting fed up. And folks don't want to get in trouble, but they would like to protect what they worked for and protect their families. So I'm just up here, I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Anybody else? I'll have you wait till our second round to say some comments, okay? Next up is ordinance on the second reading, 23-40B.
Ordinance number 23-40B by Mr. Lang, Mr. Barker, Mr. Marmy, Ms. Blind, and Mr. Labutus. An ordinance setting compensation and stating policy with respect to certain appointed positions in the city of Newark, Ohio, repealing all ordinances and resolutions in conflict herewith.
For the reading of 23-40B, what is your wish?
President, I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 23-40-B. Second.
Motion by Mr. Lang, second by Mr. Hauser. Do we have any discussion? Janine, please call the roll.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind? Yes. Mr. Shute?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Neely?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
23-40B passes 10-0. Next up is ordinance on the first reading, 23-49.
Ordinance number 23-49 by Mr. Lang, Mr. Shute, Mr. Neely, Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, and Mr. Labutus. An ordinance approving, accepting, ratifying, and adopting an employment agreement between the city of Newark, Ohio, and AFSCME Local 2963 and Ohio Council 8 AFL-CIO, providing for the application of all terms, conditions, and benefits of said agreement effective January 1st, 2023, repealing all ordinances and resolutions in conflict with the provisions of said employment agreements and declaring an emergency.
23-49 is on the first reading, but it's emergency. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Lang?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 23-49.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Lang, second by Mr. Barker. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind? Yes. Mr. Shute?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Neely?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
23-49 passes 10-0. Next up is 23-50.
Ordinance number 23-50 by Mr. Lang, Mr. Labutus, and Mr. Barker, an ordinance modifying the pay range for the position of Street Traffic Control Operations Manager in the City of Newark Department of Service, Division of Street Maintenance, and amending the department authorization tables of and setting the compensation therefore.
23-50 will be held until our next meeting, which is October the 2nd. Next up is resolutions on the second reading, 23-75.
Resolution number 23-75 by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Mr. Neely, Ms. Blind, Mr. Labutus, Mr. Rath, and Mr. Lang, and a resolution appropriating monies for current expenses of the municipal corporation.
You've heard the reading of 23-75. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy?
make a motion to adopt resolution 23-75.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Hauser. Do we have any discussion? Janine, please call the roll.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind? Yes. Mr. Shute?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Neely?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
23-75 passes 10-0. Next up is 23-76.
Resolution number 23-76 by Mr. Rath, Mr. Shute, Mr. Neely, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, Mr. Labutus, Mr. Marmy, and Mr. Lang. A resolution authorizing the conveyance of certain real property now owned by the city of Newark, Ohio, to Newark Development Partners as its agent for industrial, commercial, distribution, and research.
For the reading of 23-76, what is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Rath?
make a motion to adopt 23-76. Second.
Motion by Mr. Rath, second by Mr. Barker. Do we have any discussion? Janine, please call the roll.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind? Yes. Mr. Shute?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Neely?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
23-76 passes 10-0. Next up is 23-77.
Resolution number 23-77 by Mr. Rath, Mr. Shute, Mr. Neely, Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, Mr. Labutus, and Mr. Lang. A resolution authorizing and directing the Director of Public Service of the City of Newark, Ohio to advertise for bids and enter into contract for the off-site disposal and beneficial reuse of lime sludge from Newark's water treatment plant.
You've heard the reading of 23-77. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Matt,
make a motion to adopt 23-77.
Second.
motion by Mr. Rath, second by Mr. Barker. Do you have any discussion?
No.
Will you please call the roll?
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind? Yes. Mr. Shute?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Neely?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
23-77 passes 10-0. Next up is resolutions on the first reading, 23-78.
Resolution number 23-78 by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Shute, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, Mr. Labutus, and Mr. Lang. A resolution authorizing and directing the mayor of the city of Newark to prepare and submit to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, a one-year use of funds / action plan, along with an application for FY 2024 Federal Community Development Block Grant Fund, CDBG, as required by 24 CFR Part 91.220 for various programs related to housing and community development.
23-78 will be held until the next meeting, which will be October 2nd. Next up is resolution 23-79.
Resolution number 23-79 expedited by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Shute, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, Mr. Neely, Mr. Lang, and Mr. Labutus. And a resolution appropriating monies for current expenses of the municipal corporation.
You've heard the reading of 23-79. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy,
make a motion to waive the 2-day reading rule on resolution 23-79.
Second.
got a motion by Mr. Marmy, a second by Mr. Lang to waive the 2-day reading rule.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Shute?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Neely?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
The 2-day reading rule is passed 10-0. Mr. Marmy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Make a motion to adopt resolution 23-79.
Second.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lang. Do we have any discussion? Can you please call the roll?
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Shute?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Neely?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
23-79 passes 10-0. Next up is resolution 23-80.
Resolution number 23-80 by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Mr. Lang, and Mr. Labutus. The resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor.
23-80 will be held until our next meeting, October 2nd. Next up is 23-81.
Resolution number 23-81 by Mr. Rath, Mr. Neely, Mr. Shute, Mr. Barker, Mr. Marmy, Ms. Blind, Mr. Lang, and Mr. Labutus. A resolution authorizing and directing the Director of Public Service for the City of Newark, Ohio to enter into a lease purchase agreement with Park National Bank for lease purchase of one non-transport medic unit for the Division of Fire.
23-81 will be held until our next meeting, October 2nd. And next up is 23-82.
Resolution number 23-82 by Mr. Rath, Mr. Neely, Mr. Shute, Mr. Barker, Mr. Marmy, Ms. Blind, Mr. Lang, and Mr. Labutus. A resolution authorizing and directing the Director of Public Service to negotiate and enter into contract without competitive bidding for the purchase and installation of a new boiler for the Newark Police Department and declaring an emergency.
You've heard the reading of 23-82. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr.
I
Rath,
can make a motion to adopt 23-82. Second.
motion by Mr. Rath, second by Mr. Barker. Do we have any discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Rath,
this is under an emergency because the boiler is in dire need of repair quickly. And we waived competitive bidding because there's only one company that deals with it particularly.
thank you, Mr. Rath. Anybody else? Can you please call the roll?
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Shute?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Neely?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
23-82 passes 10-0. That completes our ordinance and resolutions tonight. Now we get back to comments from citizens. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Do we have anybody tonight?
Linda Mossfolder, 224 Green Meadow Drive in Newark. I've heard a lot of comments tonight about the homeless, and I agree that it is a problem. one of the things I would like to just comment on, not all of the people who are without housing are putting things, are putting trash out. They're not all using drugs. I have spent the last month, we put a 76-year-old woman in a motel on August the 19th. I have spent the last month trying to find her housing. And I'd just like to share some of the things that I have found out that may be of interest to the city. We have tried everywhere. I mean, I even got to the point where I figured she's 76, let's go to the aging program. They can't help with housing, but they let me know that they know of at least 5 senior citizens who are currently living in their car or are living in tents. I called Terrace Gardens, which is the high rise that houses senior. It's under renovation. They are not taking any new applications. Went to behavioral health departments. They only serve people who have need supportive housing because of their mental illness. They have an extensive waiting list. Went to the main place. They only serve people with Medicaid. This woman has both Medicaid and Medicare, so they cannot serve her. I went to Metro Housing. They're still working on last year's waiting list. And until that's completed, they can't start working on this year's waiting list. There are over 200 people on the waiting list. I know that this woman needs subsidized housing. She gets $606, I have it memorized, $606 in Social Security and $238 in SSI. You cannot rent anything on that. So I know she needs subsidized housing. So I started calling places. Every place I called, I got an answering machine. I left a message, not one place returned my call. I finally went downtown because somebody told me that they had room in the Candlewick Commons. I literally banged on the door until somebody came to the door because this was supposed to be their office hours. They handed me an application. This is the application. It is the same for every subsidized housing place. It's this whole, in fact, it's just information about HUD that has to have a signature, not initial, and a date on every page. So I asked when I finally did get to put in the application, pulled some strings to get that done. And I'm not above that anymore. I'm tired. So basically I said, well, all these sheets are the same for all of your housing units. Do they have to be signed and initialed every single page? Yes. So, and then we completed most of the application, and the woman who took the application said, you're missing 3 documents. And I said, what am I missing? She says verification of homelessness. I said, I have a letter from basically the Coalition for Care saying that this person is staying at a motel and she is homeless. Well, we need you to fill out 3 more forms. So we had to take the 3 forms. I had to have Melissa at the Coalition for Care sign the form again, and then we had to return them. So I called today and I said, can I just drop off these 3 sheets of paper? She says, no, you need to make another appointment. So that's what it's like when you're trying to search for housing. Just a couple of other things, and then I'll be quiet. This woman lost everything, her birth certificate, her ID. I could say that we are slowly making progress in getting those documents. But she got her SNAP card, replacement card, but we had to activate it. So she has a little bit of arthritis. So we called to activate it. So I have the card. You have to enter your 16-digit card number. Well, she can't do that. So she tried 3 times, and I'll admit I tried it twice and I couldn't get my iPad coordination must be, catching up with me because I didn't get the numbers in fast enough. So I had to call back. Just a couple of things that are happening is the Salvation Army is no longer serving breakfast or lunch on Saturday mornings. And the reason they have given is it's a homeless outreach, and just a correction, not all of us live in Granville. I do live in Newark. So they expect us to fill that void. We are a volunteer organization. All of our food is donated. We do not have any funds. So that's gonna be a burden to us. We serve 119 people on Saturday, again, now that all of those people are unsheltered. And I appreciate the suggestion that was made at the last council meeting that people could put their trash in dumpsters. We are very fortunate that the thrift store that's next to the outrage unlocks its dumpster every Saturday so that they can we could put our trash in there. And I'm just a little confused. I may be mistaken, but I thought it was illegal to put trash in dumpsters on private property. That people could even be charged with a misdemeanor or trespassing. So I would just like some clarification on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir.
Clarence Smith, 123 Barrett Hill Road, Eden Highway. To add on to what I said before, my garage is right next to the Goodwill. Goodwill has tried to put a chain link fence around their dumpster. They get into it. They probably used a crowbar they stole from my garage. So the cops the Newark police do patrol it. You see a lot of guys on bicycles with baskets attached to them. Anybody with a backpack and a bicycle can pretty much do what they want. I mean, you see them all around town. The bad thing about Goodwill being right there is that there's a daycare right beside it. So there have been needles, there have been beer, there has been other paraphernalia found around my shop and Goodwill. So what if a kid gets a hold of that and stabs himself? What if it's laced with fentanyl? What if it has heroin on it? Kids don't overdose. So they get free Narcan, but you have to pay for freaking diabetic medicine. So I don't see where the help is going. So they take their trash from Goodwill and take it to our area and sort it out and then leave it. At one point, they had a bed, a nightstand, and a lamp, like it was their bedroom by my shop. I came in there brushing their teeth on the end of their bed. I called the cops. Took them an hour and a half for them to get there. They're sitting there on the bed still. I come back, they're still there. They are brazen and they are blatant. As the woman said, not all homeless are bad, not all are drug addicts. I go to Spring Hill Baptist Church. We have outreach to homeless. I go to Celebrate Recovery. I'm a recovering addict, not drug, alcohol, but we have other addictions that plague us all. So I understand that there's help, but it's so easy for them to get stuff handed to them that they don't have to get a place to stay. And when they're not prosecuted for stealing, for blatant urination in front of freaking people, leaving their stuff around, why would they stop? They get handed everything to them. Why would they stop? So, thank you.
Rachel Roland Smith, 237 Violet Court. In terms of the homeless, this just breaks my heart because I am seeing a lot of stores cutting down on employees rather than building up. And I see a lot of people trying to have two jobs, including ones that are homeless. And I see during this time period that this problem is going to get worse before it gets better, and we need to recognize that. I don't think homeless people are being handed things on a silver platter. But there are, and I agree, there's a lot of really nice and very productive homeless people. And it just really bothers me that we're preying on this population when they're down on their luck. Not all homeless, again, are on drugs, and not all of them steal, but they're trying to survive. And I don't think that, my experience is most of the ones that I see do not take anything for granted. Thank you.
Gary Babcock, 67 Philmont. Good friend of mine, Mike Morris, bought 214 Hudson Avenue. Thank you. And I think Colton Ryan was involved. They fixed a lot of potholes. He put a ton of money in this house. He turned it, it took him 90 days, get rid of 11 people in a 1-bedroom apartment. They cleaned up drug paraphernalia for the whole 3 months. But go in that home now, he's got 3 quality families in that home. He doesn't rent the 5 garages out back to any Tom, Dick, and Harry. If they don't rent the house, they don't rent the garage. So thank you. Thank you, Colton. Okay, heads up, winter's coming. Last year, Columbus closed their 3 warming centers. The reason being, they couldn't afford it. So a do-gooder church from Newark, I know who it was, they advertised. We're running a bus to Newark, but there was no plan on returning anyone. So just a heads up in case that happens this year. These warming centers are coming. If Columbus can't afford it, how can Newark? This Saturday, there's a really good newer church up on Linville Road, Christian Life Center. They're going to do another cleanup. So once again, these do-gooder churches and the do-gooder nonprofits could show up in there and help. And they could start on the bike path that runs from East Main Street to O'Bannon Avenue. The other day, there was even a tent. You could see it from O'Bannon Avenue across the bike path. So with that being said, thank you.
City officials tonight, any city officials? The law director?
Thank you. I just wanted to thank council for the passage of 2340B, and I appreciate all the consideration that's given in that. One comment I have is keep calling police. I know that probably doesn't give people a lot of comfort. But from what you're telling me, everything I'm hearing, I'm thinking crime. And thank you, Mr. Brenner, for calling the police and prosecuting for criminal trespass on your property. And I don't want you to think that prosecution of the homeless is necessarily hurting them, because what it does can get them clean. It can get them hooked up with services. We're not going in front of the judge and saying, just throw them in jail and throw away the keys. That's not what we're saying. We're saying, let's get them clean and let's see if they want to get involved in services. So please keep calling the police, and don't just shoot people off if they're trespassing on your property. Call the police and prosecute. With that, go Browns.
Yes. Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. I'd probably echo what Trish said, really, at the end of the day. Yes, the police are busy, but if they don't get called on something, they don't know what happened. And, you need to have it, we need to document it. There are homeless that aren't breaking the law, and there are homeless that are breaking the law. And if they're breaking the law, we need to do what we need to do, but we don't know that without citizens letting us know. So we appreciate that and appreciate everyone coming in and sharing tonight. Mr. Bruner, like tonight was a good show. They had over 500 cars this year, which is about 100 up from last year. On car show day in 21, Mr. Matheny passed away. And if everybody remembers that, the morning of the car show. It went on that year. And it went on last year. They were just a little behind this year, but I talked with them at the end of the show. They were very happy. Of course, the weather was beautiful. And next year we talked about trying to expand it geographically. I mean, where to do that. So we anticipate to get, Jim was always in here in about May of each year and talking early, and we had good conversations with him. But it's a great event in downtown, and appreciate it. And I think more people will be involved each year as we move forward. So there were days when there were 1,000 cars years ago. Yeah, quite a thing. Echoes of the past, Gary, thanks for sharing that. We were there. It was a great event and very neat. And I think each of you presenters did a wonderful job. And I think you learned more about your families or your friends or whatever you're presenting for at the time. Chance and her team did a great job. Really at the end of the day, the cemetery looked wonderful. It was a beautiful night. And I would thank the Historical Society, because Mr. Long's done a great job in coming in there. So we move forward with a lot of memories of our past, and we do that through buildings and we do it through communication and we do it through a lot of ways, but it's an important part of Newark, our history. So I appreciate everyone that participated in that. And with that, I'll pass.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Barker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll keep this short for you. Just want to thank everybody for coming in tonight. As always, we don't know what goes on unless you tell us or contact us throughout the weeks. You know, in between these meetings, we're all available. Our information is on the city website, so if you need us, you know, we're here for you. I can tell you that there's a group between council and the administration that has met twice regarding homelessness and how not only the police and property maintenance and the parks and everything can work together. And I believe that group's going to continue meeting throughout the end of the year to really look and see how we can help with the homeless issue and how we can affect positive change and not hinder anything. So we are working on it. We hear you. We're just trying to stay, quite frankly, within the federal regulations of the law, which are very, very tight on this. And with that, I will pass.
Thank you, Ms. Barker. Ms. Blind.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. And for some, it was no small thing because there's fear of retaliation. And in fact, I've gotten phone calls and texts of some that didn't come because of fear of retaliation. And so I appreciate you all. You guys have shown courage day in and day out, caring for your neighborhoods. I've seen Mr. Bruner and people from other neighborhoods interact with escalated persons and literally talk them down just because of the relationship they have with them. That it's not a hateful relationship most of the time, that most of the time they care for one another and they truly want the best for everyone. And so I've learned a lot listening, and all during the summer on Wyatt, we worked with residents, we worked getting cameras, and grateful for the police and the sheriff's department. We were able to get enough information and documentation for a large stolen goods bust. And it was a wonderful thing. It helped at that time, but we can't quit. We won't quit. Those police reports, documentation, calling the police, and again, getting those reports, being willing to testify in court is a big deal as a witness. And I want to thank you guys. And as Ms. Permine said, I've been listening, and everything that you've said, I've been totaling down and categorizing and seeing with so many moving parts, what we can do. Again, as Mr. Barker said, to augment, because when something is so consistently reported, there's an opportunity for reform somewhere. And we're gonna get it because we won't quit. And I thank you guys again. Thank you for your courage and care. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shute. Mr. Hauser.
I'll pass as well.
Mr. Labutus.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to thank everyone again for coming out. Mr. Barker said a lot of things we're not aware of. You tell us about them either here or by contacting us. So thank you for being here this evening, and I will pass.
Thank you, Mr. Lang.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, thank you for everybody for coming. I know some folks are here for the first time. Would welcome you to come back. You know, we love hearing from everybody. There aren't decisions that get made immediately, but these are all things that, as others have mentioned, are being worked on. So these are all points that get considered, things that get talked about as we think about rules and things that we can change. So we need to keep hearing from you. So I'd implore you to come back. It was really nice to hear from a whole bunch of different people with really specific issues that I think really should be a fuel for our police, for our prosecution, for as a legislative body to take some action. So thank you very much for coming. Also wanted to thank the third graders over at Legend Elementary, Mrs. Util, Mrs. Richards, Mrs. Green, Miss Evans classes for having me once again to talk about city council. We had a really fun time learning about our city government, how it works. We did our traditional mock council meeting where we once again decided that pizza, donuts, and ice cream were the best thing to have in the cafeteria every Friday. Got some really lively debate and utilized some good Roberts rules to keep things under control. So kids had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. This year was extra special. My daughter was in third grade there, so she finally got to be there and play the part of Mr. Harris and be our council president. So we had a lot of fun, and it was a really fun part of my job. I love doing it when I get the opportunity. So thank you to them, and that'll pass. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Marmy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Need to call a finance committee meeting for October the 2nd. I want to thank everyone for coming out, and not only do I hear you, but I have been fighting for you for the different things. Now, as Mr. Barker indicated, we have to work within the law. Our law director is very good at telling us what can and cannot be done. However, we still need to get better. But that comes with, improving our law enforcement presence. Okay, now we have to hire police officers in order to do that. We also have to enforce our current laws that we have on the books. The only way to do that is, like the law director has indicated, we need property owners to call first and then be willing to testify. That's the only way to do it. And it's only those that are breaking the law that we want to make sure, just like any other citizen that breaks the law, we want to try to make sure that we deter further criminal activity. And when we start to enforce this in an improved manner, the word will get out. And that's what our hope is that we want Newark to be what Mr. Bruner has indicated. Okay, we all want the same thing. We want our families to be able to live somewhere where they don't fear just walking outside their door. They don't fear things getting stolen off of their back porch or their front porch even. So we all have a common goal. We're working towards it. And I think you're going to see improvement. It's not going to come overnight, though. It really will not. It didn't happen overnight. This thing has grown over the years. We will correct it in time. And we appreciate you coming in and sharing your stories. That does help us. It helps us to support what we want to do up here. Finally, I just want to thank everybody who was able to come out to the celebration this past Saturday for Eula, the owner of the Draft House. It was a 50-year celebration. Great crowd, just fun. Everybody was talking, just mingling, walking around. The mayor gave a great proclamation to a well-deserved young lady, I'll call her, but because at her age, she's still going. And she had her family in. It was just a fabulous event. I want to thank the mayor for all that he did. The radio station was there. There were food vendors and the Draft House, of course, and Elias. It was a community event, and it was a lot of fun. And so I want to thank everybody that came out and supported that. And with that, I'll pass.
Thank you, Mr. Marmy. Mr. Neely, I will pass. Mr. Rath.
Thank you, Mr. President.
My arch enemy tonight.
Unfortunately, being towards the end means everybody's already said everything that I wanted to say. For the most part, I did hear somebody say that we were preying on the homeless. I'll add that to the list of silly things that's been said in council before. I don't know where you're getting that from. Mr. Purrier, I mean, you said it real well. As a fellow older man, don't confront, don't run them off, and don't just observe. But like everybody else has said, we need you to call the police. We need you to let them handle it. And then we need you to press charges. And ideally, we need you to press charges. And I know I'm looking at you, I called you out by name, but I'm talking to everybody, not just you. So
So everybody's listening. We need you to press charges. We need that to happen. And just keep calling the police. They are busy. They are short numbered. It takes a while for them to get there. I wish we had another 50 officers on the streets. We don't yet. We're working on that. We are certainly working on increasing our numbers. But until that happens, we're gonna work with what we got. And what we got is what we got. So call them and call them up call them every time you get that problem. And then again, press charges. Mr. Lang, it's awesome that you had your daughter play as council president. I hope you didn't commit child abuse and make her dress like our current council president. That would be a shame.
No.
But that is a neat event that you do every year, and we appreciate you going there and representing us. Somebody wrote a very nasty note on my council minutes here. Not sure who that was. I'll talk about formal registry or formal complaint later.
Do you want to share with the class?
I just said little brown.
Okay, thank you.
And since we have 16 minutes until the Steelers get the pound on the Browns, I'll say, let's go Steelers. And call a service committee meeting, which I almost forgot, and then I will pass.
Thank you, Mr. Rath. Mr. Wright.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I want to say thank you all for coming out. You are heard. The homelessness issue is progressively becoming an issue. Gradually and suddenly. Just like Mr. Marmy said, we're gradually, gonna have to fix this issue. But sometimes if you ignore things, they suddenly hit you. And I feel like this summer, I don't know what's in the water, but I can't even drive down the street without having to slow down and stop. So, the bike trail's an issue. Can't even walk down it. Even me, I got chased away with a guy with a machete. So, that was me. I called the sheriff. I don't know if anything's done. But I'm 28 and they're chasing me away. So, go Browns. With that, I'll pass.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. Everyone up here does listen and we pay attention. Jill, was that your name?
Yeah.
Tim, would you talk to her after the meeting for a few minutes about her situation? I thought she had a lot of information and how the process works for getting the police more involved in her situation. He's the safety director. And I think it's important. I want to congratulate Jeff Hoskins on his retirement. He had 32 years or something with the city. He did a wonderful job with the city. And of course, go Browns. And our next meeting will be October the 2nd. Do I have a motion? Motion by Barco, second by Lou. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.